Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. And I'll tell you what, it's been a month since we have done one of these podcasts. It feels like a very, very long time. Absolutely delighted to be back. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much for all of your incredible support on this channel in the last month or so. Simply incredible support as always, but we are delighted to be back talking about Tottenham, talking about the transfer window. There is a lot to get into. There is a lot to discuss. Let's start with the guests. We have got channel regular Craig Dearman, which it appears at the moment Craig's doing more work on this channel than me, which he's very welcome to take over at some point. Craig, how are you?
I'm okay. Hello, everyone. ¿Cómo estás? I hope you've had a good summer so far. Yes, it's things are heating up. Spurs always find a way to drag out something that should be fairly simple. You would have thought, which we'll get into the Morgan Gibbs-White deal. But there you go. It's Tottenham. We wouldn't have it any other way, would we?
Well, we're going to get into it. We certainly will. Back with us, of course, is Ricky Norwood. Ricky, great to have you here. It feels like a long time, doesn't it, since we've recorded one of these?
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute, but I think we needed it. I think we all needed the break. You know, we can see the suntans off of you and Craig there. You know, you managed to get away. You managed to have some family time. You managed to have some rest time, and I think we all needed that. We all needed to breathe after such a crazy season, winning that beautiful trophy, having the parade. Then, you know, with all the other things that happen at Tottenham. It's just been a bit of a roller coaster. So I think we all needed a bit of a breather. We all needed to collect our energy, and so that we can then give you the best show possible, as we always do. So the break was needed for us all, I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said. And also back with us is channel regular and journalist Josh Hughes. Josh, how are you?
I'm buzzing. It's great to be back. And I think this might be the first time in God knows how long that I come onto a podcast with a smile on my face and not ready to be all negative. So that's what the summer weather does for you, and that's what some good signings do as well, I suppose.
Well, Ricky, games helps as well, Josh.
Yeah, that's true.
Ricky, I know Josh and Craig have been on the podcast during the time that I've not spoken to you publicly on the podcast. So I'm going to start the podcast with you, if that's okay. Yeah. Now, of course, one of the last times you were on the podcast, if not the last time, it was when we were celebrating winning the Europa League. It was the day after we recorded the podcast. Of course, I was on the way home and you were like, we've got to do the podcast. And it turned out to be a great episode, by the way, of us winning the Europa League. Now, of course, Ange Postecoglou has gone out the door. We were in that plant pot, standing there outside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, watching the team, watching Ange, you know, come out and say to the fans, you know, season 3 will be better than season 2. I think at that point, everyone expected Ange to be there when he said that comment. What have you made of the managerial change? What have you made of Thomas Frank coming in? I know we're going to talk about the transfer window shortly, but the managerial appointment, what do you make of Thomas Frank coming in? Do you feel excited about the season ahead?
I mean, with Ange, it was upsetting. And it's another reason why I needed a break as well. It was upsetting, sacking him after all of that. I've said many a time all of last year, you know, the reasons that I felt that we should have kept him, we should have carried on with him, especially after winning that beautiful trophy, especially after having the hearts and minds of the players themselves, which I think is, you know, some of the most important people that need to be on side with a manager. I was upset. I really did think that if we would have acted how we're kind of currently acting right now, even though we've had a few bumps, but go out there in this summer window and go and get the pieces of the puzzle that this team needs, and go in with a kind of a balanced full squad to start the season with, to a squad that can handle all competitions and fight on all fronts, then I think that it would have been a different story. But you know, at the same time, okay, he's gone. I was upset about it. I was upset with some of the fan reaction towards it as well. But look, everybody's got a right to feel the way that they feel. The one thing that we have to do before we move on from Ange is thank him again, not only for the trophy, not only for the glory, not only for the parade, but for getting us to this point where we can go out and spend the money on Kudus and then attempt to spend the money on Morgan Gibbs-White. You know, having Champions League football, having that guaranteed money in the bank, that extra revenue there. You know, it's down to him and the boys that went and performed on the night and lifted that trophy. I mean, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be moving in this direction. So maybe season 3 will be better than season 2, but it will just be a season when the main character did get killed off, like he mentioned in that press conference, you know. Going on to Thomas Frank, I got to be real with you. I wasn't excited whatsoever, but I think that was more to do with my hurt towards Ange. You know, but once he signed, I've taken some time to watch some videos, listen to some interviews, you know, and dive deep into Thomas Frank's world, and my fingers and toes are crossed for him. I won't judge him. I'll always back him. I'll always back anybody that wears the cockerel on their chest and wants to do the best for our club. But I won't judge him like I did Ange, who I didn't want, by the way, when we signed, until after 10 games. So I'll give him the 10 games. After 10 games, I'll know what he's about. I mean, we know from information that he likes to adapt. He likes to change his formation. He likes to cater to the opposition. We know a lot of things about what he's about, but we don't know a lot about his style. As in, you can't say that that's a Frank style. Like we did Ange ball, we can't say that that's Frank ball because he's adapted and changed so many times, which is a benefit to him. Yeah. But also, you kind of like the question would be like, you know, what's the identity then? So with all of these up in the air questions, I'm going to wait until he starts the season. I'm going to wait to see what new players come in, and I'm going to wait to judge for myself with my own eyes how he's taking the team forward. But from day one and from match one, I'll be backing him and I'll be backing the boys as per usual, because I can't do nothing but love this club.
Josh, how are you feeling about the appointment of Thomas Frank? You excited?
I am. I just like the fact that we've got someone in who clearly carries himself very well. If you look at what he's done at Brentford from the moment he took over, he sort of improved them year on year, every single time. And I must admit, you know, I thought Brentford would go down by now. I'm amazed that Brentford have stayed in the Premier League this entire time and not only done that, but improved every season. And I like the fact that he does adapt, and the stats will show some pretty exciting things for Spurs fans. You know, I think they averaged the most goals closest to the goal itself. So they score from close range more than anyone else. I think that they conceded the fewest goals from set pieces, scored a fair few as well. And I loved seeing there was that picture on Tottenham social media, and you could see on the whiteboard, someone had zoomed in on it, and you could see long throw audition. And I absolutely love that, because it means that this is a guy that's going to try and get us to win in different ways, not just one way. And that was something that drove me crazy about Ange, although I will always, you know, love and respect him for the Europa League. And I think also it's clear to see, based on, you know, what's been going on in the transfer window, and I know it drives you nuts, Chris, all of these rumours linked with interest in, but Kudus, to get him 30 million cheaper than his release clause. I know we're going to go on and talk about Morgan Gibbs-White, no doubt, but to be linked with those types of players, to bring in a couple of young, talented players as well. I mean, it looks like it could be an exciting window. And I was very, very surprised that Spurs have gone in early and got someone as talented as Kudus in. And I think that's testament to what Thomas Frank is clearly bringing to the club. So, yeah, I think it's an exciting time. Of course, we need to see how it all shapes up. And we've not had a game yet. We start with Reading. But I like the fact that he's got a data-driven approach, and everything from the players doing, I can't remember what you call these tests now, but he got them to do these fitness tests where they effectively run, 10 lengths of the pitch as fast as they can as a sprint, and then they work out that percentage to try and improve them to get their fitness up. You know, I just like that this is a completely different approach. It's worked at Brentford. Now, of course, he's got an opportunity to prove himself, which I think he deserves. So, yeah, I think off the back of the Europa League, I think there are a few better people we could have got in.
Perhaps we ought to do the fitness tests amongst ourselves with the podcast group. How do you think you get on, Craig?
Yeah. Let's move on to something else. Not sure.
Craig, how are you feeling about Thomas Frank? Because it's fair to say,
with a vape in his hand. That's what
I know. Yeah, exactly. Craig, you weren't exactly overly excited when Thomas Frank was appointed. Have you changed your mind now?
Yeah, exactly the same as Ricky. Totally agree. I have, because when you actually do a deep dive into what he's all about, as just said, you know, he's clearly a manager that he's very adaptable and will change in game if we ever need it. Could play 3 at the back, 4 at the back, 5 at the back, different formations in midfield, 2 up top, 3 up top, 1 up top. So he's very, very flexible. And when you actually look at Justin Cochrane, one of his, or Cochrane, don't know how you pronounce it, one of his coaches, I think he's something to do with Tottenham, isn't he? He's actually a very, very highly regarded coach. And from what I understand, all the players that have ever worked with him really, really rate him, really do rate him. So, and you know, the manager's only as good as his coaches. So it's no surprise he's brought him with him. And the coaching staff he's building around him. So I'll be really excited to actually see what we can do. I still don't think preseason games will tell you much. It's just all about fitness, as I say every year. But you'll get a general feeling, perhaps, of how the football is going to be under Thomas Frank. So, obviously, starting with Reading and Luton, and then building up to bigger games, Arsenal, Newcastle, and God, it's gone out of my head. Arsenal, Newcastle, and Bayern Munich. Before the big Super Cup, of course, where he could win a cup in his first competitive match. So that's going to be good to see, and hopefully we can build throughout this pre-season and really get going and actually be prepared for the first Premier League game of the season, starting off with a win.
Craig, what do you make of the comments from Daniel Levy about that we want to be fighting on, we want to be competing on all fronts, because all of us Spurs fans, all we ever want to see is the manager backed. No matter how someone sees that saying, how can you back a manager? I think a lot of people have different ways of how you can back a manager, but for what Spurs are trying to do in this window, it certainly looks like Thomas Frank is being given the tools. I know the Morgan Gibbs-White situation is up in the air at the moment, which we'll talk about shortly. But, like Josh mentioned there, when you bring in a player like Mohamed Kudus, who has Premier League experience, and Ange actually spoke about that a number of times about, this transfer window is going to be about Premier League experience, because we all know, or experienced players, should I say, because we all know that Spurs have got an excellent development system. We've got a lot of young players who, I'm sure Thomas Frank will improve, and they would do extremely well for the future. And as Melvin says a number of times, Spurs would be a great team in 5 years' time because of the amount of players that are improving and developing. But what do you make of Daniel Levy's comments about we want to win the Premier League, we want to win the Champions League? How far away do you think Spurs are from really competing? Because it's all well and good us getting excited about players like Mohamed Kudus coming in and the amount of money that Spurs are looking to spend in this transfer window. But it is also fair to say, and being realistic about it, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, they have all strengthened hugely in this transfer window so far, and it's far from over.
Yes, exactly. And it's just keeping pace with them at the moment, the other teams. That's the thing. Have we done better business than those teams? Probably not. to be honest with you. Obviously, it's difficult because we finished 17th last season, and we finished 17th because they prioritised the Europa League. Turned out to be the right choice.
Yeah.
But I mean, you'd likely think that the only way is certainly up for Tottenham in the league this coming season. So you'd hope Frank improves on 17th place finish, because if he doesn't, we're going to be looking for another manager. So I would hope that he does. How far are we away? I'd say we're a fair way away from even challenging for the Premier League. I don't think we're anywhere near it, if I'm honest. But football, things can change quickly in football, and if we can get 5 or 6 key signings in this window, obviously we've made a couple so far, keeping with the club ethos of trying to bring through youth as well. But we need players for the now, as you say, that's what we've said for months and months and months. We've all said it. And going for players like Kudus and going for players like Morgan Gibbs-White, if we get him over the line, brilliant, really good start. But it can't end there. We've got to continue buying in these players. And that's the kind of worrying thing. Why aren't we hearing anything else about signings? I mean, there's rumours out there, isn't there? Cody De Winter and Douglas Luiz and Paulinho, but it's all just paper talk and rumours, and they're printed every day. It's kind of just rehashed the same story. So I just hope this Morgan Gibbs-White thing isn't delaying our movements in the transfer window, because we need to. I would imagine Thomas Frank will want players in before we go on the pre-season tour. And it's not
Craig,
long now till that happens.
Craig, you know what though? Like, and I know you've been doing the daily updates and stuff like that, but did you hear any rumor, whisper about Morgan Gibbs-White before it happened?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Yeah,
and you know what? I love that. It just reminds me of being a young kid again, when you used to see something, breaking news, on teletext or the back of the newspaper when it used to come through your door, and people actually read newspapers. It was just like bang, before the internet was here and before you know everything about a transfer before it's actually happened. But Johan Langer, it's fair to say that he does everything under the radar, whereas Fabio Pracci used to do everything so publicly, and he used to look at so many different players. But I love that, Ricky. I love the fact that it's just like bang, and we're all like, what? That 24 hours of Mohamed Kudus, and then suddenly Spurs, here we go for Morgan Gibbs-White. I know you're all itching to talk about Morgan Gibbs-White, so forget the script right now. Let's go on to Morgan Gibbs-White, because a week ago, Fabrizio Romano said, here we go, £60 million. Spurs want to pay the £60 million release clause. It all looked so simple. There's a release clause in place. Spurs want to pay the money. The player wants a new challenge. The player does not want to sign a new contract at Nottingham Forest. But now there is this big issue. Legal action is supposedly being taken against Spurs. Legal notice has been given to Tottenham. Legal notice has also been given to Morgan Gibbs-White's agent. Ricky, what do you make of this situation? Because so many people out there, including myself, are saying, well, come on, Spurs want to pay £60 million. He's got a £60 million release clause. The player wants to come. What's the problem?
I mean, it comes down to the Nottingham Forest owner, doesn't it? From all that we're hearing about Marinakis, I think the news took him by surprise as well as all of us. I think it was a bomber for the chairman as well as it was for all of us. And I think that's got to do with some of the backroom staff and some of the people that created the contract for Morgan Gibbs-White, that put the release clause in there. I think he's just delaying it right now. From what I've seen on TalkSport, Simon Jordan, there's been a lawyer on there as well. There's been a lot of talk about it. From what it looks like, all he's doing is almost delaying it to kind of save face or to get some signings in before he lets Morgan Gibbs-White go. Almost a bit of theatrics to kind of show the Nottingham Forest fans that, look, I didn't want him to go. I tried to hold him. Yada, yada, yada. But I think at the end of the day, it goes through. I think it goes through and he comes to us. And just to kind of, on the back of what Craig was saying there as well, it's like, so me not hearing any rumor about the new player doesn't trouble me whatsoever. I always say before before the transfer window starts, whatever player that you think that we're linked to the most, we're probably not going to get. And every rumor take with a pinch of salt. This year has been the same as last year, as in Eze, because everybody was speaking about Eze. And then it doesn't, I mean, who knows what is going to happen with him, but it doesn't look like it's going to go that way, especially if we get Morgan Gibbs-White in. Like you were saying there, Chris, that, you know, Langer works in the shadows. He likes to do a thing, you know, very, very quiet, and he will only announce it when it's time to announce. So when we did get the bomber for Morgan Gibbs-White, it gave us that rush again. It reminded us of all when we were younger, and we got those exclusives, and we was like, oh my gosh. And because we heard rumors about an hour before, I think it was, that all right, we're interested in, but then an hour later it was just like, yeah, here we go. And that's the only time that I will tweet about a transfer or a link or anything like that, is when Romano says here we go. I'm like, well, 99.9% of the time it's going to happen. So that's when I kind of tweet about it. Being on this show and speaking about transfers and speaking about the speculation of A, B, and C coming to Tottenham and the benefit that they can bring to Tottenham over the years has tired me out. Do you know what I mean? It's tired me out because we put all of these thoughts, this energy, and this speech into whatever players come in, or whatever player we want to come in, and it just doesn't happen. It does seem that this year is a lot different. It does seem that somebody, has got the checkbook off of Levy and is like, mate, just stay in the office, deal with, the stadium rights, and we'll deal with this. And whatever's happening right now, because we know for as long as he's been there, we never saw that. We never saw a player, 55 mil, bang, all right, cool. We've seen the negotiations, we've seen the penny pinching, but then 24 hours to spend 60 million again. We all know what the line should have been, what it normally is, which is now we have to sell to buy, before we can bring anybody else in, or some other iteration of excuses. But we actually started to move, and it actually started to feel like we are moving like this big club. We are all ready, every single fan, not just us on here, we are all ready to take Daniel Levy to account for saying he wants to fight on all fronts, right? We can't wait. I know how upset you was, Chris, because when he said that, we didn't bring nobody in. And then we bring in Kota Takai, and however good he is, it almost felt like a bit of a downer. It almost felt like, here we go. We're just going to get kids in again. We're going to get, a development squad in, and it's, round in circles. But we get that. We get Kudus, which is a massive signing, by the way, massive signing. Yep. Don't listen to any West Ham that tells you and tries to talk to you about last season and what was happening last season. Last season, he was played out on the left. Yes, he can play there, but it's his least effective position across the front three and up front. When he had his outstanding season for West Ham, it was on the right. For Ajax, it was the 10, sometimes the right, sometimes they'd push him up front, but it was mostly the 10. So I think Kudus is a massive signing. I know they're like, oh, well, yeah, you paid us 55 million. Watch when he doesn't turn up for you. He can't wait to turn up for us, because as he let us know, he's got Tottenham in the heart, right? So he's going to be on fire starting next season. With Morgan, I think Morgan can see what is being built at Tottenham right now. He can recognize the quality that is in our squad already. Don't forget how good our squad is. Yes, we finished 17th. Yes, the 22 losses, etc., etc. But if you just want to concentrate on that and not put it into context, then that's up to you. But I think Morgan Gibbs-White as a player has looked at that side and gone, Vicario, Van der Ven, Romero, like Porro, crosses, your doggy on that side. All right, cool. Yeah, he's looked at the squad and he's kind of gone, this could be really exciting. He's got his mate Solanke up front. We've got we still got Sonny here, which is amazing that he's still with us. I know there's talk about that. I'm sure we probably get into it, but I'm happy that he's with us. I love him to bits. And so he's looked at the side and gone, there is something being built here. And then whatever has been said to him in the speech before, this is Morgan, before he wanted to come, has obviously impressed him enough to go, yep, that's where I want to go. Kudus said he only wants Spurs. Even when West Ham were twerking for Chelsea and somebody else to come in for him. So something is being built. I think that the Champions League coming is a big factor. I think that the fact that we got that monkey off our back last year in lifting the trophy has put us in good stead. And I think it's exciting times to come. But you're absolutely right, Chris. It has to continue. It can't just stop here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Jimbo, I love your comment. Sending you big love, bro.
Well, Ricky, let's go to Jim's comment here. And Jimbo, thank you so much for this comment. This Morgan Gibbs-White saga is like a storyline in EastEnders. He's gone now. And I'm staying with him. Ricky, come back. So Jim says here it's like a storyline in EastEnders. So you feel like at the moment where we are, you know, someone's saying to Morgan Gibbs-White, Morgan, are you coming to Tottenham? And then we get the duff moment, and then the episode ends. So how does the next?
It doesn't go that way. It doesn't go that way. I'll set it up for you.
So how does the next episode start? How's this going to end? Is he going to sign for Spurs? Do you think?
I think he's signing, but I'll set it up for you. I'll set it up for you properly. All right. This is the end of the episode. Morgan, you come into Tottenham Hotspur. Yes, I am. It goes to the manager picking up the phone, going, "No, you're not." That's where the duff comes in. Then the next episode starts with, you know, a little bit of controversy in the Vic, but by lunchtime, he's a Tottenham player. You know, so I think it is going through. I think he wants to move. I think he's, you know, let it be known to the club, Nottingham Forest, that he wants to move. I think the fans are already in limbo with him saying that. You know how it feels. We know how it feels as Tottenham fans when a player wants to leave that we want to stay. So I think with all the circumstances, I think that they're going to make it happen. But I think they need to make it look right for them. It almost looks like they've been shafted, which they've not. You know, there's a release clause for a reason. I just don't think they believe that Morgan was going to accept any release clause or want to leave Nottingham Forest going forward. I think it's come as a major shock, and I think that all he's doing is letting the player know that he's the one in power and letting Daniel know and the club know that he's the one with the cards. So I think we've just got to play it out for a minute, but I think he ends up at Tottenham. And I need to show you this. Not only do I have to show you the sexy top, right? And I'm loving this top, yeah, but check this out. And I ordered it a month ago, right? But it's taken ages. It's a key ring. All right, where are we? It's a key ring, but I can't. It's got a little tag here saying Bilbao, and then this is not as large as your trophy in the background there, Chris. But I've got a little mini key ring trophy.
I love it.
It's brilliant.
It, honestly, it's gorgeous. Can't wait to chat that one.
Go on, Josh. You know you want to.
Sorry, I was just laughing at this comment that's come in.
Go for it.
It starts when Ricky turns up at the Spurs store instead of Watford.
Listen, I know my way home. I don't know how to get away, but I know my way home.
You'll never get over that. Never get over it.
Never. And that's the next shirt. I'm going to get, where's Watford on the back? Let me tell you.
Josh, let's come to you because I know Ricky's touched on this already about Mohamed Kudus coming in and about the Morgan Gibbs-White situation. Before we get your thoughts on the Gibbs-White situation, this really does go to show that the club have got ambition in this summer transfer window because as Craig and Ricky have rightly pointed out, £5 million on Kota Takai, £55 million on Mohamed Kudus, and they're about to spend £60 million on Morgan Gibbs-White. You know, £120 million in a week. I tell you, every single one of us, even Spurs Twitter, everyone on X was super excited. And I felt, and I said this on that day, it just seems like the fan base had, you know, reunited again and everyone was on the same team and everyone was feeling and thinking the same thing of, wow, you know, wow, Spurs are going for it in this transfer window. What a signing Morgan Gibbs-White would be if he does end up wearing that Spurs shirt at the start of next season. But what do you make of the ambition aspect from the football club? You know, is this the time when we're going to see real change? Because I'm asking you that question because you have been a real... you know, it's fair to say that you've given the board a lot of criticism over a number of years, but is this the time when we see the board acting differently in this summer transfer window?
Well, I don't know how many times I've come on the podcast and, you know, it doesn't matter who's on, you know, you've agreed with me, Chris. We've had this conversation in transfer windows where we say it has to be different this time. And for Levy and Vinay Venkatesham to come out and do that big PR stunt, whatever you want to call it, and they talk about wanting to compete on all fronts. They mention in the reasoning for getting rid of Ange that he wants a team that can compete on all fronts. You've got to put your money where your mouth is. And I'll be honest, all of this points to inward investment. I mean, we know that Spurs are looking for investment externally, and it looks like potentially there might have been some investment from ENIC as well. But also, I think we have to also consider the changing nature of the market. In a world where Noni Madueke is going for £55 million, it makes the Kudus signing that much better, because I think Kudus is a far better player than Madueke.
And Nicholas Jackson quoted at 100 million, by the way.
Well,
Who's going to pay that? Jesus
exactly
Christ.
it, right? And so we're looking at what does
sure that's not Michael
55,
Jackson,
60 million get you these days, right? And so for 55 mil to get Kudus when he's got apparently an £85 million release clause, and you get him in, I said it in the video, we've absolutely had West Ham's pants down. And the thing that makes me laugh is the fact that I've always felt that West Ham care far more about us than we do about them. I think they're just pining to have that rivalry because Millwall's not in the Premier League, or they're not in the Championship with Millwall, when we really care about Chelsea and Arsenal. So to bring a player in, and the last player that we signed from West Ham was Scott Parker, who did a pretty good job, I'd say. That excites me. And the way that the deal happened, he wanted Spurs. It shows, how significant that Europa League win was as well, because the Champions League money comes in. We've been handed the world's biggest lifeline, because with the way the season went, and now to be in the Champions League, having had that incredible night in Bilbao, it completely changes the narrative of where we can go as a football club. But the thing we have to, you mentioned before about, City spending, Liverpool spending, Arsenal, etc. They were always going to. And we were always the club having to play catch up. And I still think we do have to play catch up. But at least we are behaving in a way, at least it seems so far, like the clubs that we want to aspire to be as good as and compete with. And Fabrizio Romano said, when he said the "here we go" with Morgan Gibbs-White, he was talking about this is going to be a busy window for Spurs. We're not going to be done there.
Yeah.
And so to me, this seems like a leaf, may have been turned here, but let's just wait and see how the rest of the window goes. I'm excited so far, but I don't want to be in that position where we get stung if things don't quite go to plan. Who's the contingency if we can't get Morgan Gibbs-White for whatever reason? But right now, I'm going to enjoy the moment, because I feel like I've been far too negative on this channel. And I feel like this is a rare occasion for me where I'm genuinely very, very excited about the direction of travel for the football club.
Let me
right.
ask you guys a question. Sorry, Chris. I want to ask you and Joshy and Craigie. Do you think that this has got to do with the changes in the board? Because there has been a lot of changes in that boardroom. And, Daniel's still there. Yes, he is. But from what recent reports are saying that he's almost been, there's football-related matters have been taken away from him, with Vinay coming in and stuff like that. And to be fair to Daniel as well, and that Vinay interview, however PR-y it was, Josh, I felt it was a good video. I felt that was the best I had ever seen Daniel speak. I think he looked his most human. I felt he looked his most relatable with Vinay there, And so with all of those shake-ups in the boardroom, do you think that is correlated in this way of acting during this summer window? Have we finally had enough of being an also ran and gone, you know what, we are a big club. You know what I mean? Let's show people what we're about, finally.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this first. And I think, and someone, I think Alpesh has said in the comments about I can't remember if that's how you pronounce, if that is his name or not. The Charrington guy, the geezer that's come from the big banks, and he's got a massive reputation. He's come in. Vinay, I thought, was a very ambitious move from the club in the first place. He's got a track record, and I've spoken to Arsenal fans who their overall feeling on Vinay was he didn't do a bad job at all. He steadied the ship. He was, not bad at all. And actually, you're right. It was very PR-y. Let's not make a mistake about it. But when Levy was talking about us winning in Bilbao, I did actually sense that it did mean something to him. And I think you could see it in his facial expressions and the way and the tone of his voice. I think maybe the board changes have made things easier or changed the dynamic somewhat. But I did like the idea that there was almost a bit of competition between Levy and Vinay. They had a sort of very much a rapport between themselves, as if they clearly get on. They're clearly mates. But there was an element of kind of, I can't remember the exact wording in the interview, but Vinay stepped in and kind of made a comment that, I don't think that Vinay would be scared to tell Daniel Levy, I think you're wrong here, and this is how he should do it. And I think maybe that competitive edge is something that the board needed. And look, at the end of the day, my views on Daniel Levy. I just want to see Spurs be a winning football club. I want to see us sign the best players. And we all want that. We all want glory. We all want more nights like Bilbao. We all want to see us winning Udine as well. By hook or by crook, as long as we're getting good players in and we're backing the manager and we're giving it a good go, that's kind of, that's all I really care about at the end of the day. We just want to see a successful football club.
What I would say on that, Ricky, and thanks for bringing that up, by the way, I would say that that interview that you referred to there, Josh, Vinay saying about he would challenge Daniel Levy about decisions. Now, I think it's fair to say, and most of us, all four of us have spoken about this a number of times, about some decisions at the football club being poor decisions over a number of years. And things must progress in the right way. But I do feel also the fact that we won the Europa League, we won a major European trophy, our first one in 41 years, our first trophy at the football club in 17 years. And as Josh said, Daniel Levy was very, very happy about winning that trophy. Who wouldn't be? We're still on cloud nine because we won that trophy, and that parade was just, unbelievable. And every single time I talk about this, I've got goosebumps on my arms again, because it was such an incredible moment. But we've got to build a squad now for another new manager. How many times do I say about, X amount of managers in X amount of years because, bad decisions have been made. So I feel like that shake up at board level, that shake up at the football club, is a business. And in any business, you always need to review your staff, what you're doing. Are we going forward? Are we sitting still? Are we going backwards? And improvements are always needed. And those questions and that questioning of, are we doing things right, that is very, very important for a football club moving forward. And it's funny because I think just over a month ago, when I had Martin Lipton on, who is a fantastic guest on this podcast, I might add, from the Sun newspaper, he actually said to me at the time, before we saw any of these interviews, he said that Vinay Venkatesham is not scared of a microphone. He will be on a microphone and he will talk to the fans. And that is so important. And I've said this on a couple of episodes of Tottenham News that we put out on a daily basis, that I just hope that these types of episodes don't only come out when it's a transfer window or, it's downtime or when Spurs are doing well. I feel like this communication, this level of communication is really important when Spurs aren't doing so well as well and results aren't there and things aren't that great. So that needs to continue, in my opinion. A lot of football clubs are very good on communication with fans. I feel like Spurs haven't been good on that front in previous years, and I feel like Spurs finally have, in certain areas, want to improve that level of communication with fans. You know, they're actively talking, and I know that Vinay Venkatesham has spoken to the FAB. He's gone into meetings with them. He's also gone into meetings with the trust. And from what I understand and conversations I've had, he's going to do that on a regular basis, which I feel like is really, really important. And we haven't done that a lot as a football club. And I feel like that level of communication going forward is really, really important. Josh, talking about the ambition of the club and answering Ricky's question as well, do you feel like this shake-up at board level is a little bit to do with that? You know, the money, how much money do you think that Spurs are going to spend in this transfer window? How ambitious can Spurs be in this transfer window? That's the big question I think that we're all asking ourselves at the moment.
Absolutely. My gut feeling is, because we're still awaiting this naming rights deal for the stadium, and you know, there's no smoke without fire, right? Spurs have come out, you know, they've come out quick off the blocks, really, and it's a statement signing in Kudus. Vuskovic has come in, you know, and we've got this Morgan Gibbs-White situation sort of rumbling on, right? You get the sense that something's happening at the club. There's been this big board change. We've just won the Europa League. I think there's probably a moment of reflection for the board, to be honest, because let's not forget.
Yeah.
I don't think the criticism of Levy and Enoch in the board has ever been more ferocious than it was last season. You can see it by the number of fans that attended the protests. I was one of the people that in the North Stand that was holding one of those big banners up about the board, because that's how disillusioned I felt. And it felt like a chore watching Spurs at times rather than a joy. And then we have this magical moment in Bilbao, which again, I was so glad that I got to experience that with you, Chris, and many pints consumed, I must say. But then look at the trophy parade, right? How many people were there? I mean, I don't think you could get an exact number, but it was absolutely insane. And then, despite the noise and the kind of division in the fan base when Ange was sacked, Frank comes in. We start acting this way in the window. Levy and Vinay come out and say what they, you know, about the ambition. There's no smoke without fire. I genuinely do think that Spurs may well spend more than they've ever spent in a transfer window. I absolutely believe that that's the case. And when you're looking at the types of players we seem to be going for, Kudus, Gibbs-White, you know, there's been a lot of links with Adam Wharton, for example. You know, these are the types of players we want to be going for. These are exactly the types of names we've been saying for God knows how long. These are the types of players we want to bring in. And it seems to be...
Josh, sorry to jump in.
Yeah, go
Josh,
for it, mate.
When you mentioned Adam Wharton there, right? 100 million. Are we really going to spend 100 million on Adam Wharton?
So can I add to that before you say anything, Josh? Because it is frustrating. You know, a couple of transfer windows ago, I think Adam Wharton has played about 37 league games for Crystal Palace, and now he's got this price tag of £100 million. 18 months ago, you know, Spurs could have had him for £18 million, £22 million, plus, you know, including add-ons. It just seemed crazy. Spurs were heavily tracking him at the time, but, you know, from what I understand, they didn't want to pay that money. We've seen this a number of times. Players like Jack Grealish, players like Eze, you know, how many times on all of these transfer updates I mentioned Eze since 2019? I expect that we'll probably be linked with Eze in the January window and the next summer's transfer window. I can tell you that now for free. You know, that is going to happen. But it just seems frustrating, doesn't it? The fact that some of these players that we've been heavily tracking and monitoring, and we haven't gone ahead with it, and they've turned out to be real gems. I know you can't sign everyone, but it just seems a little bit of a shame with these two players in particular.
Absolutely. Kvicha Kvaratskhelia at PSG was another one when he was at Lokomotiv Moscow. There was the story about Robert Lewandowski back in the Harry Redknapp days when Archibald was at, I think, Lech Poznan, and he was offered to us dirt cheap. But that's testament to exactly the point that you made earlier, Chris, which is that the board have made a series of terrible decisions over a number of years. But the fact that, and Craig, in answer to your question, are we going to spend 100 million on a player? Is it going to be Wharton? I have no idea. I think we're moving closer towards the possibility that Spurs may finally do something like that. Certainly, if we can get some external investment into the club, that may be possible. We know, and anyone that's looked at the finances will see that Spurs can spend big, because Levy, for all of his faults, has run us unbelievably well as a business. But my point is wider, that it is more about the types of names we're now being linked with. I don't want to see us being linked with just kids or players that are, not up to standard. And the other thing that surprised me a little bit is the amount of Premier League players that we're being linked to.
Yeah.
It seems to be a very clear move that the club want to bring in top performing Premier League players who have that experience. We talk about it all the time, Prem proven. We want to see those types of players in the door, players that can hit the ground running. And that, to me, says more about our ambition than anything else, because you're going for players, and we're linked with players that have already done it in the Premier League. Of course, it's frustrating. When Wharton, we could have got for cheap. Eze the same when he was at QPR. But I want to keep seeing us being linked with these types of players and getting these types of players through the door. Another name that I'll throw in that we've been linked with that I'd love to see in is someone like Anthony Robinson. He's just recovering from a procedure that he's had, and he's had an injury. But imagine having someone like Robinson, who's been brilliant at Fulham, going toe-to-toe with a doggy, testing each other. We need to be, if we want to be where we want to be, right, and we want to see Spurs competing on all fronts. That's what Levy said himself. So that's the precedent that has been set. We need two good players in every position. So I think the ambition is clearly looks like it's there. We're going to have to spend a hell of a lot more. We cannot stop now. I hope we get Morgan Gibbs-White over the line. Although I'm positive that was an agent thing and not Spurs. Yeah. I'm not sure what Spurs can do about being told what the release clause is. And my other inkling about that is that it probably wasn't £60 million. It was probably £60 million and 7 pence. It was something probably so ridiculously specific.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been right.
Yeah.
And then that's on the agent and possibly on the player, because it sounds like the player wants the move. So it's all moving in the right direction. Now we need to go out, and we still need another attacking player for sure. Still need probably some more defensive cover as well. Definitely need that sort of bombastic number 6 that's going to control the game and give us that, that Rodri player, that Declan Rice type player. And the truth is, right, you asked about Adam Wharton, Craig. What top number 6 is not going to cost upwards of 80 to 100 million? They're all that sort of price. Balaba's another one at Brighton. Brighton, it was only reports, but they allegedly slapped a £100 million £100 million price tag on him as well. So we want that type of player. We know what it's going to cost. But yeah, I think it's moving in the right direction. We just need this to continue now.
Josh, a quick one for you. Ginola says here, they're laughing about me saying about teletext. Do you remember teletext?
I do actually. Yeah. I'm 25, but I still remember that. And it had the light blue and yellow writing on it, if I remember correctly. But I don't remember reading anything on it. All I remember is that it existed and it was there. And back in the days of of Blockbuster and VCRs and all of that. But yeah,
thank you for that.
What else was on there was the phone numbers. So they'd give you the rumours, and then they're like, if you want to find out more information about Tottenham rumours, phone this number. And you can, and it was a prepaid thing. And I phoned it. I phoned it as a kid. and I was there, but listening for ages. I didn't even get to the rumour before my mum put the phone down. What you speak, and then she put the phone down. But yeah, those were the days, man. Those were the days.
I had that, Rick. Honestly, the phone bill came in, and my granddad said to me, why have you been ringing the Tottenham Hotspur transfer line? I've racked up like 50 quid worth of phone bill. But I remember CFAX, you had to, it wasn't just one page for a team. You like for rumours, you had to let it scroll through about 50 pages before you found out Spurs assigned absolutely nobody. And then that was it. So yeah, happy days.
I think I found out about Tramanzani on teletext. I don't know whether that's true or not.
And it cost about 76 quid.
And I remember Tramanzani. And the boy from Inter Milan, Nicola Berti.
Yep.
Nicola Berti.
Blimey. Craig, let's come to you. Sky Sports reported, and this is basically the latest on the Morgan Gibbs-White situation. Nottingham Forest are adamant that Morgan Gibbs-White is now not for sale. What do you make of this situation? Do you think that this deal is actually going to get done by Tottenham? And it's interesting what Josh said, because I said this the other day. £60 million release clause. It clearly isn't £60 million. It is probably something like £60,123,456 37 pence. And Spurs have gone in there with that exact amount. And that's where probably Nottingham Forest have gone, hold on a minute, this is a bit weird. This exact amount. What do you make of it?
I just think Daniel Levy is a bit more clued up than to go in with the exact amount. Like if it was £60 million and 7 pence or whatever it is, or that figure you said, wouldn't you go in with 55 million or 50 million, and then you turn around and say, well, no, and then you get in the discussion. So, I mean, he's been doing this long enough. Surely you would know. Do I think the deal's going to get done? I do. I do think the deal gets done. It's quite clear. The player wants to leave. He doesn't want to upset the apple cart. He won't put in a transfer request, I don't think. Did Gareth Bale put in a transfer request at Tottenham when he left? I don't think he did. So I think it's a bit like the Bale thing,
He didn't go up to training, though, Bale. I remember watching that on Sky Sports News. There was definitely a time he didn't show up to training. Yeah,
that was right towards the end, though. He went on the last day almost, didn't he? But it was, I mean, we knew he was leaving, but I think this deal gets done. I do. I think it's just the Forest have obviously got their knickers in a twist because of this. But like you say, however Spurs found it out, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. They've found out this thing. Somebody was saying, like, have they asked for what the fee is? How are you ever going to prove that? And would Spurs do that? I mean, Josh will know more than me from his reporting background, but this sort of thing goes on all the time. It must go on all the time. And you see in the media reporting of so-and-so's. Do you remember when Benzema had a €1 billion release clause when he was at Real Madrid? Well, that was out there. Everybody knew about that. It's just that people didn't know about this. And Forest don't want to lose. He's their captain, isn't he? They don't want to lose their best player, essentially. So he's getting his knickers in a twist over that. They've actually signed a striker today, Notts Forest. So perhaps, as we're led to believe, I think Football.London reported that they hope to get this done by the end of the week. So fingers crossed it's sorted.
I think the thing with the release clause is this whole thing about an NDA, which I found baffling because I didn't know too much about this. I just assumed that if there was a release clause, it would have to be known, because how are a club going to find out about it? And so it seems to me that what's gone on is he's got this weird NDA on his release clause, by which you have to go to the club first and say, we would like to sign Gibbs-White. How much? But surely with an NDA on a release clause, does the club have to tell you about the release clause? Because surely they could just turn around and say 100 million, please. And not.
There's no standard answer, Josh. They're all different. All of these release clauses are different. So that is not necessarily the given of someone just gives you a price. It's not the given.
I just think it's Marinakis posturing. That's all it is. It's Marinakis crying wolf once again. Not for the first time. We saw it with the referee incident, with what looks to be the case with Crystal Palace and the European football debacle. this is not the first time that Nottingham Forest have thrown their toys out the pram. And I think they're a fantastic football club, a football club I've got a lot of time for. I lived in Nottingham for 3 years and used to go to the City Ground. But this guy, I wouldn't want to deal with him. I certainly wouldn't want to deal with him. And
Ricky,
he's making it difficult, isn't he? That's all he's doing.
Ricky, before you come in, I've got to read this. Dutty says, I still use teletext. Surely teletext is still not a thing. Surely that's a joke.
What? That has to be a joke, right? I don't think it exists anymore, right? I mean, come on. No way.
Chris, I'll just tell you something. We have made a signing, though, because Spurs have announced a long-term partnership with Molson Coors Beverage Company, bringing in Prava, Coors, Madri, Record League and Cobra to fans at the Spurs Stadium, and it replaces the deal with Heineken. So
I do like a Prava.
Can I just say that might be the news of the transfer window, because the beer,
it might be
pardon my French, but the beer at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, for all its loveliness as a stadium, is shit. It is horrendous. And
well, we do it.
God knows how much. £7 tastes like arse. It's horrendous.
How do you know that tastes
like? Coming in to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and Cobra, the king of beers. This is fantastic news.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure if this new company wants to send us a whole range of new beers, we will happily try them on the podcast.
We'll do a tasting test.
Absolutely, yes. And we'll also do some private sessions with it as well. So, no problem at all. So please get in touch. tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com.
But you know what, though? I've got to ask a question to Joshy. Maybe Joshy knows more, or maybe you gents know more. But if Nottingham Forest say that Gibbs-White is not for sale, is that not in breach of his contract? Because there's a release clause for a reason. So if a club has met the release clause, how can you then say that he's not for sale?
I think
it gets really weird. Chris, I think you should jump in on this, because I don't get that. And surely my thinking on what you're saying, Ricky, is that if you've got a release clause, it should be down to the player to decide whether he wants to go or not.
Yes.
And if the player wants to stay at the club, then they don't have to sell him. The release clause is there as an option for the club to make money if it's a development club, right? It's a club that's not expecting to do the things it's doing. And I'm sure, as much as Marinakis said when he took over Forest when they were bottom of the Championship, that he wanted to get them into Europe, I'm not sure they expected what happened last season to happen. And secondly, it's there for the player. If they're signing a player and it's quite clearly a stepping stone, they're getting a player and it's part of the means to convince them to come to the club, because you know what a talent they are and the potential. So, it doesn't make sense. Chris, what do you make of it?
Ricky, it's all well and good. People like us speculating about it, even the media speculating about it. There are very few people that actually know what is in that release clause. There could be a clause in there that if Nottingham Forest are in the Champions League or the Europa League, which they are in now, it could mean that no club can put an offer in to activate that release clause. It could be a whole host and a number of things. We just don't know. No one can answer that question, because, like I said earlier, it does seem really simple. The fact that, okay, this is the release clause. Okay, we'll pay it. The player wants to leave, etc., etc. It just seems very simple, but none of us know. The media don't know what is in that release clause. Only very few people will understand and know what's in there. So I don't think any of us can actually answer that. But I do think that it's going to be down to the player. If the player wants to move, from what I understand, and from the Sky Sports reports, who are very up with this story, by the way, they're saying that the player does not want to leave the City Ground, under bad circumstances. He's very well respected there. He's their club captain. The fans absolutely love and adore him. And I feel like if he does want the move away from the club, whether it's to Spurs or someone else, he's going to have to force that move if he wants to go. And I feel like that is exactly how it's going to end up. But we all laughed and joked about it, didn't we? The fact that Morgan Gibbs-White turned up to training on Monday wearing blue and white.
Do you know what as well? I throw in that I think is really interesting is the fact that also on TalkSport and just on social media, there's a lot of Nottingham Forest fans that seem quite resigned to him leaving the club and almost accepting that he's going to leave the club. And they're talking about players that they want to bring in. There was one guy on TalkSport, can't remember the guy's name, Forest fan, talking about getting in McAtee and Harvey Elliott, for example, as replacements. So clearly, this is all on Marinakis, and clearly something's got to give in this situation. I don't, and the other thing that I would say, actually, that we haven't mentioned is Daniel Levy in all of this. There is no way, for all of the criticisms I will give Daniel Levy and have given Daniel Levy down the years, what's one thing that I trust him wholeheartedly on? That's the legal side of things. There is no way in hell, I believe for 1 second, that Daniel Levy has broken any law or contract or done anything untoward. He's been so by the book as a chairman in terms of the finances. That's one thing I absolutely trust him on. There's no way in hell, in my view, that Daniel Levy in Spurs going for this deal, there's a situation where Spurs have done something untoward. I won't believe it.
Can I just ask all of you for a quick yes or no? Do you think that this Morgan Gibbs-White deal is actually going to get done and he will be a Spurs player for the start next season? Ricky?
Yes, mate. Yes, I do.
Josh?
Have you seen this kit? He wants to wear this one, bruv. He wants to wear this one.
Josh, do you believe this deal will get done?
I think so. I think it will have to.
Yeah. Craig?
Yes.
Yeah, and so do I. So that's all four of us. I know there will be some people. Rich says no. Jason says yes. Jimbo says yes. Spurs Die Hard says yes. Tintin says no. Let's wait and see. Let's talk a little bit about Mohamed Kudus. Craig, what is he going to bring to this Tottenham team? Because as a few of you have already said, in his first season, brilliant for West Ham. Second season, they had a really poor season, very similar to Tottenham in the Premier League. I know they finished just above us, but in the Premier League, his form was really poor. What do you make of this signing? What's he going to bring to Tottenham? And how is he going to fit into this Thomas Frank system?
I think this is a really good signing, actually. Like you say, last year wasn't brilliant for him. First year at West Ham, he was brilliant. I love players that can dribble the ball and dribble at pace. You watch him in those first games for West Ham in his first season, just drifted past people like there wasn't there. Very much reminded me of Moussa Dembele in that regard. I'm not saying he's anywhere on that level yet, but I really rate Kudus. I think he's going to do really well under Thomas Frank. Clearly he wanted to come to Tottenham. Probably going to get the wrath of the West Ham fans when we go back to the London Stadium, that's for sure. I wouldn't. I hope he's got thick skin. But yeah, I'm really excited about the signing of Kudus. I think it just gives us more options up front and in the final third. I think he's just something different, something that we haven't got at the moment in the club. So I think he could play anywhere across the front. People say that he can't play. I can't remember which side it is. He's left-footed, isn't he? And he doesn't usually play on the left, I think.
On the right.
Might be wrong. On the right, sorry, yeah. Okay. So it would be really good to have a lot of competition up front this season. It looks like with Morgan Gibbs-White coming in, hopefully, we've got Kudus, we've got Johnson, we've got Son, we've got Solanke, we've got Tell, we've got Yang if he stays around, we've got Madison, Kulusevski. There's so much attacking options, and Kudus just a small part of that puzzle. But again, it's all about having two players, as you said, in every position.
Yeah,
and Kudus certainly does fill that void, if you like.
Ricky, with the Morgan Gibbs-White situation up in the air, and we don't know whether he's going to sign or not, or if he does sign, it could take some time. It could take days. It could take weeks. Let's hope it is sometime soon if it is going to happen. But what are your expectations of this transfer window? What else does Spurs need to do? Because I know when we sign players, it is all very exciting. And I always feel like a lot of fans get so excited thinking that it's absolutely wonderful. But a lot of fans also forget, and this isn't a negative, by the way, this is just being realistic. I think a lot of people forget on all of the other teams, on, you know, them strengthening as well. Because like Josh said earlier, we've got a long, a long way to go. There is a long time left in this transfer window. It goes until the 1st of September. In my opinion, I do feel like we need to do a lot in this window, particularly fighting on all fronts and playing in the Champions League, because let's be honest and fair about it. It's very different from playing in the Europa League to that level of the Champions League. That level is completely different, you know, with respect. But what else do you think that Spurs need to do in this transfer window for you as a Spurs fan to feel really happy and confident that we can fight on all fronts? The words from Chairman Daniel Levy.
Well, the one thing is to get a balanced squad. I mean, last year we didn't have one. The same things we was asking for last year is the same things that we're asking for this year. Apart from the fact that we've signed Danza and we've got an extra defensive centre-back in the squad. So you might look at the centre-backs and go, with Vuskovic coming and a couple of the youngsters getting in there, that the centre-back, you know, with Dragusin coming back as well, the centre-backs are pretty much set. I don't see Romero going anywhere. and I think Romero and Mickey, you know, start as they normally do with a flyer. And I think that they grow. And I think with the options that we've got, we can rotate them and keep them fit and not run them into the ground. But what we needed last year was a left back, you know, left centre back. But I'm pushing that to the side now because I think we've got enough defenders. But a left back or if Spence was to play at left back, then a right back, a full back that can cover. To, like Josh was saying, to make sure that we've got at least 2 in every position. We still need that 6 that we was all talking about last year. And for me, I don't see spending 100 million on Morton at the moment is a good idea, in the sense of he's been in the Premier League a season. I think he's had something like 27 games or something like that, and he's done phenomenal. I think he's got 1 cap for England. I can see his valuation and him progressing, but you just never know. We've seen many of youngsters burst onto the scene and then just fall off a cliff. I mean, look at Evan Ferguson right now. Evan Ferguson's first season at Brighton was, again, off the charts. People were talking about him being the next Harry Kane, if you remember. And then last year, he's being loaned out to West Ham with former manager Potter, who doesn't even play him up front when Antonio's still recovering and Fulkrug was out and Ferguson still ain't getting a game. They're putting Bowen there or they're putting somebody else there. So, you know, you got to look at some of these youngsters that we've wanted before, and, you know, we've said pay the money, etc., and it hasn't looked to be a sound investment. And I'm not saying that about Wharton. You know, I think he would be a sound investment, but I think with somebody like him, you're probably going to wait until the last year of his contract and try and get some type of deal out of him. So I would probably say that we bring in somebody like Paulinho in the 6, somebody who's going to cost between 20 and 30 mil, somebody who's done tremendous, again, Premier League proven, as the gents were saying earlier, the theme that's running this year. Hasn't got many games at Bayern for various different reasons. So I think somebody like him coming in, who's got something to prove as well, good age, and somebody who can do the job that we're asking him to do, not only in the league, but in the Champions League too. So I think that definitely comes in. I think with Kudus coming in, and I think that, you know, so there were some fans that were saying he's not a needle mover, or, you know, he offered the performances of last year. I don't think he's somebody to get too excited about. He is somebody to get too excited about. He is somebody that is going to get you off your seat. If you need to know about Kudus, then look at his Ajax season. Look at him playing for, you know, for Black. I was going to say the Black Stars, but it's Ghana, innit? So look at him playing for Ghana. He's got magic in his boots. and in his soul. He's got a bit of JJ Okocha about him. That improvisation where you don't know where he's going to go. He's got speed, he's got power. And the one thing that our wingers were continually doing last year, and we've had a bit of a theme of it with someone like Brian Hill as well, was that they get moved off the ball way too easily. Now, we saw what Kuda's done when he came up against Mickey, and he's a fighter, and he's a very strong dribbler. When he goes and he gets his shoulder in, it's very hard for you to get near him, let alone get near the ball. And I think that's what's really exciting. I think his strength is exciting. I think his fight and his desire is exciting, but I think his improvisation is very exciting. He's not just going to do the predictable run, cut, pass back, wait for the 1-2. He's going to do things that he's not going to know about until he does them himself. So I think that he's a really good signing. I think that last year there's a stat video on it, and I'm going to try and remember who done it. I can't remember right now, but I'll try and remember who done it. But there was a stat video that basically said, like, when he was at West Ham, he played mostly on the right. Yes, he's got a left foot, but he played mostly on the right to cut in on the left, and he can use both feet very well. But that was his most effective position, was right wing at West Ham. You could see it in the minutes. And then you got to remember that West Ham had a managerial change. So yes, they were similar to us in not having the greatest of seasons, but it was a very different scenarios. They had a managerial change, and Potter's come in and changed the system, changed philosophy. And then Kudus was playing bit parts. Also, from a West Ham fan who said to me, they don't give him the ball. They can't get him the ball. So they were always in their own half, and they couldn't get the ball out to him when he was playing. So I think there's loads of different frustrations. You've also got to remember that West Ham, Bowen is Mr. West Ham. So he's always going to play on the right. They brought in Somerville for the left, and then they had Paqueta, or I can't remember, there was another one playing in the 10. But mostly Paqueta, and then it was whoever up front. So Fulkrug, Antonio for a while before he's crashed. And then there was I can't remember the other one, but there was another one up there as well. So Bowen swapped in there as well. So there was many reasons behind why I think that Kudus got frustrated last year. I think he looked at some of those people in those positions and a bit arrogantly, but a bit believing in his own ability, going, those guys can't do what I do. Why ain't you starting me? I think he saw the chaos at West Ham, and he was like, I think it's time for me to leave. And also, you've got to remember that West Ham let everybody know his release clause before the transfer window started. Everybody knew he wasn't under an NDA. Everybody knew Hughes was 85 mil because they were hoping that Chelsea or someone comes in and pays that 85 mil and gets him out. But we got a great deal for him, and I'm really, really, really happy we're there. We're bringing in someone like Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he brings energy. I think he brings dynamism. I think he brings a lot of relentlessness as well. He's another one that is very hard to get the ball over. He's got a shot. He's got a dribble, but he's got intelligence. I like his IQ. I like his pass selection. I like the fact that he sees the man running before he starts running. And I think that that's something that we need in that 10 position, or even in a roaming 8 position. I think that could run too. I think we're good on the left, and I think that the biggest thing is getting in another striker that can go and challenge Solanke. I think if we spend that money, 20, 25 million, 30 mil on Polinia instead of 100 mil on Wharton, then I think there's plenty left over to go out and get a strong centre forward. And then really important is to get out the people that need to get out, get out the people that the manager doesn't want, or that have not stepped up to the plate, or that it's just their time to go. There's some players that are here for a season, and there's some people that are here for, like Sonny, that are here for the majority. Not every signing is going to be a Sonny, and we need to be okay with that. But there are definitely some people that do need to be shifted. And not for major reasons, but for upgrades. We want to upgrade. We don't want to sit on this. We want to progress. We want to keep pushing. And when it comes down to the players coming in, last point, I promise. When it comes down to the players coming in, I know we was talking about Thomas Frank there, but from the reports that I've seen, Thomas Frank has never demanded anything, any player at Brentford. He took what he was given. He said, thank you very much. And they said, Thomas, make him better. Get him to work. And he had an opinion about, yes, I like that player, or yes, we need a left winger, or we need a right winger. But I don't think he was like, I need Mbeumo, and because of A, B, and C. You know, I don't think he said that at Brentford. And I don't think he's saying that at Spurs. I think it's the same thing. I think that we've got our data team that's been in place for a while. I think that some of these targets were already on the list before Thomas turned up. And I think they've gone to Thomas and gone, all right, and cool. We've seen what you've done with Mbeumo. Because if you remember, we was in contention for Mbeumo as well. You know, as soon as we signed Frank, we're not going to get him. He wants Man United. You know, on our list of right wingers that we wanted to bring in, Kudus is at the top of that list. How do you feel about him? You know what? I love Kudus. I can turn him into even better than Mbeumo. Bring him in. I think that's the range. I don't think we're spending the money because Frank is there. Although Daniel does have to justify the decision of sacking Ange. So you would have to. We said this, didn't we, Chris? It was like you would have to back this new manager because of the action just before. But I think it's because of the change in board, and I think it's because of the change in direction, and I think it's because finally whoever's up there in those offices has had enough and gone after that trophy, after getting Champions League. Let's not take this for granted. Let's not wait for a 15-year-old to turn into a world beater. Let's go and get what we need, and let's go get Premiership-proven players to go in there and give us what we need to push this team on. But you're absolutely right. It can't be a one summer window wonder. It has to be something that we continue to improve on and continue to strive for excellence. And little bit by little bit, we will get there.
Josh, on Ricky's points there, and I was going to mention this as well, because Mohamed Kudus, for example, we were interested in him before he moved to West Ham United. We were also interested in him when Ange Postecoglou was the manager, and now we have signed the player. So is this a club signing?
Yes, probably, but that's always the way. No club, I don't think, ever is 100% exclusively only manager signings. I think they also think about what they're going to do. And part of that is going to be down to the fact that in today's game, clubs aren't just looking at the transfer window you're currently in. They're also planning ahead to the next transfer window. Look at the Vuskovic deal, for example.
And I don't mean to say that as a negative either, because Spurs are not the only team that do this. When you are heavily driven on data, which Spurs are, and a number of other clubs are, Brentford, Brighton, for example, when you're heavily driven on data, that a manager cannot have the overall decision, can they? They've got to say, okay, I would like a player to play in this position and do X, Y, and Z, and then they are heavily driven on data, and then they probably give the options and say, well, what about him, and that's how the transfers are done, is it not?
Yeah, I'd say to an extent, but I think the other thing to bear in mind is you've got to also look at who your manager is and what you're bringing in. And Thomas Frank was not brought in to be the man behind the transfers. He was brought in as a head coach, and he was brought in to coach players. And the thing that he has done so well at Brentford is get that 10% extra out of players. It's turning actually, in many cases, bang average players into some pretty good players. I mean, that's not a criticism of Wissa and Mbeumo, for example. I think they're both very good players. Wissa, 19 non-penalty goals in the league. And Mbeumo, 20-plus goals in all competitions, plus a handful of assists as well. These are not players that were being, on anyone's radar before Thomas Frank developed them, really. So I think it probably is the case that Spurs had some players in mind that were in fitting with the type of football that Spurs want to try and play. And, Thomas Frank mentioned it in his first interview with the club. He wants to play front foot, aggressive, attacking football. I think with a little bit more control than Ange Postecoglou. But I think it's very much the case that Spurs will have profiles of players that they want to see. The data will dictate that, where Spurs' weaknesses are, and the coach will be given a choice. What do you think about this person? And if the financials work, great. And as you say, that is a fear in a way, was that it, and a lot of people were saying this when Frank was appointed, he's just going to be a yes man to Daniel Levy. That's the age-old question that you see on Twitter. Is this manager a yes man for Levy? But when you're looking at these types of profiles, you're looking at Premier League players, top Premier League players that can do it at the highest level. I think it's a slightly different scenario. So I don't think it's entirely a negative at all, as long as the manager does have, or the head coach does have, a say. But also Thomas Frank, his style and his kind of USP, I suppose, is the fact that he is so adaptable, both tactically and kind of financially. And data is the thing that has driven everything he did at Brentford with Moneyball. So whereas Ange Postecoglou had one way of playing, his way or the highway, that's it. You need very specific types of players to be able to do that. I think Frank will try and make the best with what he's got.
I was going to ask Josh, do you think that Thomas Frank will end up having a lot of pressure on him, particularly from the fans, by getting or trying to get the best out of certain players, and the fans expecting more growth, a lot more growth from some of these players, particularly the youngsters, particularly players like Richarlison in front of goal, if he does end up staying at Spurs? Will people expect a lot from Thomas Frank to get the best out of players, particularly in the great job that he has done at the 4 years at Brentford? Because interestingly, what an interesting stat this is. During the 4 years at Brentford in the Premier League, they'd never sat in the relegation zone. And a lot of people expected them to go down during that 4 year spell, particularly when they first came up. And he has constantly got the best out of every single player that he has had, a lot more than anyone ever expected.
Absolutely. Look, I think there is always going to be an element of pressure. There just is. We know that. And we know what we're like as a fan base. We set incredibly high expectations. We all want to see us at the very, very top. I think a lot of us are still, irrespective of that lovely replica trophy you've got behind you, Chris, and the medal, and Ricky's little necklace thing, whatever he's got, his little trinket. I think we're all still...
It's a key ring. It's a key ring, not a trinket.
Ricky just went off to check teletext for the latest news.
But the thing is, I guess, I think all of us still as fans are thinking back to the Poch days, and are thinking of how close we got to winning the Premier League and how close we got to winning the Champions League. And I think even though times have changed and many managers have come and gone since, I think there's a part of us that's still itching for that. And especially now that we've won the Europa League, we want to go and do even better now. So I think that pressure is always going to be on, and that pressure is going to be greater when you are going out and signing good players like Kudus, like hopefully Morgan Gibbs-White. But I don't think that's going to faze Thomas Frank.
That wasn't me that put it up there, by the way.
Oh, I've done myself in here, haven't I?
Josh, let me ask you this, because
Thomas Frank wouldn't have joined if he knew there was going to be, if he couldn't handle the pressure.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see and hear his first press conference interview, which is on Friday, ahead of the Reading game. We'll talk about the friendlies in a minute, but I just wanted to ask you about two players in particular, and do you think that they would fit in at Spurs? And should Spurs go out and spend the money? Ricky's already mentioned one of them, João Palhinha from Bayern Munich, of course, former Fulham player with great Premier League experience. Loved the yellow card in the Premier League, by the way. And Douglas Luiz, former Aston Villa midfielder, now, of course, at Juventus. Can you see any of these two transfers happening? And should Spurs go out all out to try and sign one or two of them?
What?
Josh?
Oh, it's to Josh.
Oh, is it to me? I thought it was to Ricky. Yeah, I mean, look, Douglas Luiz, I like Douglas Luiz a lot. I think he was excellent for Villa. He's not quite done it at Juventus. If you can get him in at a good price, I think there's no harm in that whatsoever. I still would rather Adam Wharton. I'd rather a Baleba at Brighton, but maybe I'm being unrealistic, thinking Spurs would even consider an 80 to 100 million pound player. You also don't quite have age on his side with Douglas Luiz. However, you know, we were saying we need more experience in that squad. So I think that's actually quite a nice balance. Can never rule out a Brazilian with a World Cup around the corner. I think that a motivated Brazilian ahead of the World Cup is no bad thing in a squad. Palhinha, yeah, again, good player, but he's not exactly set the world alight at Bayern Munich, which is one of the places you think it'd be dead easy to set the world alight. So I think I'd rather Luiz than Palhinha, but even so, I think Adam Wharton's the one that I want, really, or Baleba. They're the two.
Let's talk about the pre-season friendlies, because I can't believe it's just literally round the corner. A couple of days' time, we play our first pre-season friendly away at Reading. The following weekend, away at Luton. And then Spurs travel to Hong Kong to play Arsenal, the first ever North London derby to be played outside of the UK. Newcastle in South Korea. And then we fly to Bayern Munich to play our final pre-season friendly there. And then just a couple of days later, the Super Cup final against PSG. And Chelsea showed the other day that PSG can be beaten. What a huge game that is coming up for Tottenham. It could mean another trophy. I know some Spurs fans were like, oh my God, I'm going to be hiding behind the sofa. But after seeing them getting battered by Chelsea the other day, I think that some people now be thinking, well, we've got a chance of winning another trophy. You know, Thomas Frank could win. Imagine that, Thomas Frank coming in and we bag a trophy, the Super Cup final, before the Premier League season starts against Burnley at home, followed by Manchester City away. Craig, how are you feeling about these pre-season friendlies? I know you said earlier about it's all about fitness, but surely there will be a lot of tactical stuff in here. Surely we will see Thomas Frank be extremely flexible and versatile in tactics, and we will probably see a number of youngsters get minutes as well. New signings, of course, being involved. We will probably see Mohamed Kudus this coming Saturday against Reading, so it's all very exciting. How are you feeling about this pre-season program that we've got?
Yeah, as I said, it's kind of set up really well, starting off with the likes of Reading and then Luton, and then kind of going into, with respect to those teams, bigger games. But I still do maintain that throughout this pre-season, Thomas Frank is going to be doing exactly what you say. He's going to be looking at players in different positions. He's going to be trying different formations, and the players getting minutes in their legs. He's trying to get ready for the new Premier League season and the Super Cup, as you say. So I personally do think that pre-season is generally just all about fitness, but with a new manager, I agree. He's gonna. We could see three at the back. We could see him going Van der Ven, Romero, and another. Perhaps that could be Kota Takai. It could be Kevin Danzo. You know, we could see Destiny Udogie and Pedro Porro or Jed Spence played as wing backs. We could see two up front. We could see three across the field. We just don't know. I would like to see those things, and I would like to see us with three at the back. I think that could be employed in some games next season, to be honest. So I think it's all going to be a learning curve for Thomas Frank and the fans. I think we've all just got to be wary of any bad results in pre-season as well. You know, if we lose a couple of these games, just don't get too low about it. You know, there's a lot going to be changing over the next 4 or 5 weeks. Still players coming in, coming back. Maddison's probably not going to make the Reading game, I wouldn't imagine. So it's going to be interesting to see the sides he picks. But we obviously all want to win, but I wouldn't get held up too much on the results.
If all three of you could just give me a quick yes or no, I've got 3 players that I want to put to you, and I just want to get your opinion, and I'll come back to you on the answers. Do you think the following 3 players will be a Spurs player come the opening day of the Premier League season? Craig, going to start with you. Heung-min Son.
Yes.
Ricky?
Yep.
Josh?
Yes.
Okay. Craig, back to you. Richarlison.
No.
Rick?
No, not for me.
Josh?
Yes.
And the last one that I wanted to ask you about is Basuma. Craig?
Cool. No.
Rick?
I would say no, but I do remember an interview of Frank's talking about our midfield, and he did mention Basuma in one of those. It's unfortunate with Basuma. I think that he had plenty of chances last year, and we only saw moments. We heard a lot of excuses last year from Basuma for form and function, and for disciplinaries. Things that he done outside of the football ground, and we kept hearing you're going to see the best Basuma, and you know we didn't really see that, which is disappointing because when he did sign, I was really excited about him. He was the most exciting signing that I felt that we brought in at that point. I felt that that's the one that we needed. We haven't really seen a consistent form from him. Yeah. I'm happy with what he done in the final. I'm happy with what he done in certain games. But there was too many times that he gave the ball away. There was too many times that he was the catalyst to us conceding a goal, or just he just could have done different things and been a bit more professional. And I think that the time that he's been here, we haven't really seen it. And so I for me, it's a no, and I think he should go for himself as well.
Josh, what about you?
Yeah, gotta go. I get that he's fun for the sort of bringing the vibes to the dressing room, but that's not going to win us football matches. Do you know what? Fair play to him, though. I thought he actually had one of his best games in a Spurs shirt in Bilbao. He really did, as did Richarlison. I think Richarlison definitely had his best game in a Spurs shirt in Bilbao.
Yeah.
But we need to shake things up. There's another player that you've not mentioned, Chris, that I would throw in there that I've mentioned previously as I wouldn't be surprised if this happened. Now I think is possibly more likely, which is Bentancur. And I think Bentancur might be one that goes this summer.
Let me open it up then, Josh. So a number of players we would expect to go out on loan. Who will they be? What other players do you think that could possibly move from Spurs? Will there be any surprises? Will there be some people that just won't fit into this Thomas Frank system? And interestingly, Jimbo and Kate, and do check out their channel, by the way. Jim says here, Chris, Thomas Frank used 9 different formations last season, and that was Kate. Jim's not taking credit by that, by the way, so it's all Kate on that. So 9 different formations, incredible. Craig, who will leave on a permanent basis, would you say, this summer? Because you know, when we're bringing signings in, you do expect players to head out the door as well. And I know I've named a few there. Personally, for me, I'd love to see Heung-min Son stay. It would be interesting to see how Thomas Frank does manage his minutes. He's just turned 33, but I still feel like there's a lot that Heung-min Son can offer this team and squad. But who else would you consider that would go out the door on a permanent basis, and who would you like to go out on loan? Because, you know, guys that we talk about a lot, Josh Keeley and Jamie Donnelly, done extremely well at Leyton Orient last season. Will both of them go out on loan? Will these players integrate now into the first team, would you say?
It's a difficult one with Josh Keeley because I rate Josh Keeley very, very highly, and I'd love to see him given a chance, but he is still young. I think it wouldn't surprise me if Josh Keeley gets a loan to a championship team next year. Has he signed a new deal, or was he offered a new deal, Josh Keeley? I think he signed one, didn't he? Either way, the Spurs aren't going to let him go. Spurs aren't going to sell Josh Keeley. I think he is going to be our keeper in a few years' time. I think he's going to be our number one, to be fair. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if Josh went on loan. Jamie Donnelly, I think you might see Jamie Donnelly staying around actually this season, certainly for the first half. I think from what I heard, Thomas Frank quite likes Jamie Donnelly. But then again, he tried to buy Will Lankshear as well, didn't he, when he was at Brentford, or at least take him on loan. So then, or was it Archie Gray? It was Archie Gray, wasn't it? So I think Archie Gray is going to be staying around. Actually, I think he did want to take him on loan, actually, Will Lankshear. So that will be interesting what happens there. Which players do I think are going to be sold? Richarlison, I think, Bissouma. I think you're possibly going to get a surprise big name go out the door. Don't ask me who that's going to be. Even somebody like Kulusevski.
I've got to ask you.
I would love to give you an answer, but I haven't got an answer. I think it will be an established player. I think you'll find that one goes.
What have you heard, Craig?
I couldn't possibly say absolutely nothing, by the way. I think you've got, look, it makes sense because you've only got to look at our numbers. The Premier League squad, I think they could get away with, but the Champions League squad and all the rules surrounding that, I'm not even going to try and bore you with it because I don't understand. My head explodes when I try and.
It's club trained players, right? We've got 23, or we've got 24 now, I think, with Kudus coming in to fit 17 slots, and the homegrown players. English, well, you've got homegrown players that can go in there, but there's no point putting the kids in because they kind of automatically qualify anyway. They have to play something like 3 seasons to count as club trained. So Danzo, for example, makes a lot of sense, comes in for 21 million permanently because he was MK Dons and Southampton, wasn't it? Or was it Reading as well? Something like that. And so he counts in that way. So we do have a dilemma there. That is a real problem. There are players that are going to have to go that are international, not club trained or homegrown. So exactly. Something is to give.
Yeah. And I don't. What is it? Is it just something like 4? You've got to have 4 club trained, and we've only got Brandon Austin, haven't we? Yeah. So those 3 slots, you either have to leave them empty.
Mikey Moore needs 1 more season to qualify.
Yeah,
and that's why there were sort of conversations happening on social media about, do we get Carl Walker-Peters? Obviously, he's gone to Turkey. There are other players. Dare I say it? I'm not even going to entertain. I'm not even going to entertain.
Harry Kane.
I'm not even going to entertain it. We can't. But if we do want an attacking player, and someone to give
Harry Kane,
I would. I think we all would.
It's weird. It's weird, isn't it? Because we're all talking about what ex-Spurs players could come back and that qualifies. Our biggest ever, most popular player is there, isn't he? And he's 32?
He's the obvious one before the World Cup. He's won at Bayern Munich.
Exactly. Could it happen?
It's just not going to happen. But
right, let's get back to reality, Ricky. Let's go. Rick, let's come to you.
We all dream. We can all dream.
Ricky, let's come back to you. So regarding possible departures, who could you see realistically heading out the door? Because when we are trying to go big in this transfer window, of course, you can't keep everyone. I know we've spoken about Son, Bissouma, Richarlison, would you think that anyone else could possibly head out the door, including any players on loan?
Well, on the loans, I'm really happy that Ajay has gone out to, I think it was Doncaster, right? And he's already scoring goals there. I think that he had such a and that, honestly, that Europa League campaign, there was so many magic moments along them. Surrounded by chaos and anarchy with the league, but and injuries, but that Elfsborg game when Ajay came on, and 1-2 touch, the dribble, and then he scored that beautiful goal and set off the rest of the youngsters to go, all right, and cool, let's go. So I would say probably I'm happy that he's gone on loan. It's going to be definitely one of the strikers, whether that's Lancashire or Dane Scarlett. I think one of them will definitely go on loan. I'm unsure about Mikey Moore. I think that he should go to West Brom with Mason. But after Josh just said there's only one more year left before he's club trained, we might have to bite the bullet on him and keep him in. But let's see. But a lot of the youngsters that come in and got minutes, I think should definitely try and get out there on loan. Abbott should definitely get out on loan. There's a couple in that under 21 squad that I think that are good enough to get out there as well. Casanova at left. I mean, he normally plays left back, doesn't he? I mean, I don't know how old Casanova is, but if you could get some good loans for these youngsters, I think it would see us in good stead for the future. When it comes down to Josh Keeley, I think sending him out on loan, another loan, would be fantastic. And I think keeping him amongst the squad, I don't think he's going to be the next Alfie Whiteman. I think he's going to, like Craig, I think he's going to force his way into the Tottenham squad, one way, shape or form. Not this year, but in a couple of years, definitely. If we can keep getting him on loans and keep getting him game time, in about 3 years, 4 years time, I think he definitely comes in and starts to challenge. So we've got some dynamite youngsters. It's about getting them out on loan. I think that's really important. And then on the outs, like you said, Richarlison, Basuma, I could see going. Bentancur is a really kind of left field shout that Josh brought up there, but I can see what you're saying. He's dynamite. I really like. I think Bentancur is dynamite. I think he plays great for us. And yes, he's had his injuries. Yes, he's had some dips as well. But I think that this year, especially having an injury-free-ish year last year, I think he steps up, and I think we start to see the Bentancur that we saw in the first season, and maybe even a better and improved Bentancur. So that's one out of left field, but I can see something like that happening. Maybe someone like a Dragusin. Maybe someone like a Dragusin goes, because we do have a lot of centre backs at the back.
Lastly,
for who?
Oh, go on.
For Dragusin or for Bentancur, Josh? Who was you talking about there?
I was saying for Bentancur, I think you can get a fee, and there will be clubs that are interested: Saudi, Turkey, wherever.
Have I frozen?
Right? No, I can hear you now.
I think Ricky's about 5 seconds behind. You got it? Right. I'm going to go with the last question. Oh, he's got it. He's about 10 seconds behind. You'll get that in 10 seconds. Right. Oh, he's gone. Right. Josh, last question for you all. I know we can talk all night, but last question here, because although Craig said it's all about fitness with these pre-season games, what are your expectations during this pre-season period? Because the Reading and Luton games, I think, will be quite calm. And then we go to Hong Kong to play a North London derby against our biggest rivals, Arsenal. How fiery do you think that game is going to be in Hong Kong? And then, of course, we play, Premier League rivals Newcastle. in South Korea, and then Bayern Munich. We know the quality of the Bayern Munich team and squad there, and that game is going to be great preparation. For that Super Cup final against PSG, a competitive game. A cup, a trophy is at stake here. That is a huge game for Thomas Frank. It's a huge game for all of us fans. We want to see us compete against the Champions League winners 2025. And then, of course, a couple of days later, we face Burnley in the Premier League on that Saturday. So it's not just about fitness, in my opinion. In this pre-season, it's going to be completely different because that competitive game with that Super Cup final. How does Thomas Frank manage this pre-season with such an important game with that Super Cup final on the 13th of August?
Well, he's going to want to see everything he has at his disposal, and he's going to want to see who works and who doesn't work, and who works hard and who doesn't work. Because I think this is one of the things that's interesting, is you could have almost put your house on who was going to play under Ange, but here we may have a totally different. Are we going to play with 4 at the back? Are we going to play with 3 at the back and play with wing backs? Who knows? So that's what this pre-season is going to tell us. And I think Thomas Frank is going to pick the 11 players against PSG that are fit and work the hardest, and give everything, because that's what Thomas Frank's all about. It's about effort. It's about being a collective. It's about being sort of one. And he talks about uniting the fan base and uniting the players, and it's all about unity with Thomas Frank. So that's what I'm looking for. The results aren't that important, except for when we play Arsenal, because that, regardless of it being a friendly, that result matters. And then you want to go in, obviously you'd like to win games in pre-season. Let's hope we don't have the same shambles that we had when we went to Asia and we had the Tiger Cup and the game rained off in Thailand and what have you. And I think you were there, weren't you, Chris? You were flying out there and you were mucked about by the weather. And we want a pre-season that's free of injuries, free of external disruption, and an opportunity for these players to gel under a new system. I think they're already going to be on a high. Let's make no mistake about it. They've dug in and won that Europa League together. So I'm sure that the morale is already going to be very high. Let's see how they play with a manager who hopefully has a bit more tactical nous and go from there. Although the only thing I'll quickly say before I finish is you mentioned Radu, Ricky. Yeah. I think Radu's going to be a big player in this Tottenham team.
Me too.
Because we're not going to play a stupidly high line that relies on Van de Ven to make 50-yard recovery sprints all the time, I don't think. And he loves a set piece. He loves a long throw-in. And if you look at the centre-backs he had, it was me and Pinnock at Brentford. Radu, with that big frame and that physicality, I think he could be a nuisance in the box. And that physicality, I think Frank will actually really like. And we might get to see a side of Radu that, perhaps we've not seen in a Spurs shirt, and more akin to how he played for Romania at the Euros.
Craig, in terms of team selection, like I said earlier, and like we've seen over a number of years, despite who has been the manager of Spurs, in those early pre-season games, you would expect a number of youngsters, development players, to be given opportunities and minutes. But when we go to Hong Kong to play Arsenal, like Josh said, it's very important, that result, despite it being a friendly, it's very important to the fan base. And then Newcastle in South Korea, and then the Bayern Munich game, you would expect Thomas Frank to virtually go at full strength, wouldn't you? Because a matter of days later, we are playing PSG in that Super Cup final.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, he needs to have his first choice 11. I would imagine whoever he puts out starting in that Bayern Munich game, that's the 11 you're probably going to see against PSG. That's what you'd think. I'm trying to think about the players that I might think could actually give him something to think about. And I've just got a sneaky feeling Jamie Donnelly could be that player. I think he'll give him a lot to think about. I do. I hope Jamie gets a fair few minutes in pre-season. Good season with Orient on loan last year. Watched a lot of him. Really coming on as a player. What is he now? 22, Jamie Donnelly. He's ready. He no doubt he's ready. So that will be really interesting to see. He is. I mean, like I say, we don't know what sort of lineup, what formation he's going to go with at Reading. I think there'll be a lot of changes, like there always is. The result not that important, really, but obviously we want to see us win, as I say. So, just looking forward to seeing how we set up and go about our business against Reading. And as this progresses through, and we're playing better teams like the Arsenals and the Newcastles, that will be interesting to see how he sets up in that as well. So. A lot to probably dive into during those pre-season games as to how Frank is adapting to different formations and different teams that we're playing.
And Craig, how are you looking forward to that PSG game?
Yeah. I'd say yeah. I mean, look, the thing is, we haven't played. When was the last time we played PSG in a competitive game? I can't ever remember us playing PSG.
There's a good chance of us playing them in the Champions League next season.
There is. There's a very good chance. Absolutely. So that's going to be interesting. Josh said the name of the player. Is it Cavakiscalia? I can never say his name. Yeah. He was a player. We discussed it on the podcast. I think I was on the podcast and Josh mentioned him actually, and he is a phenomenal player, dribbling with the ball. I love to watch him play football. Gutted we didn't get close to getting him, let's be fair. He scares the life out of me, actually. Imagine having him running at you. Pace, power, trickery. I think Pedro Porro is going to have his work cut out that night, or whoever's at right back. So it's going to be an interesting match. But let's see how we get on in pre-season first, and see what tactics Frank employs. And I, for one, I totally agree with Josh on this. I'd love to see those long throws and see who has it. That would be interesting. I think people in the comments, who do you think won those auditions to be our long throw merchant? I've got my ideas, and I'll say it after a few names go in the comments. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. All for long throws. Used to love watching Rory Delap launch him in against Stoke. Used to scare the life out of me when we played Stoke. So that's going to be an interesting tactic.
Pedro Porro, I think, will be definitely there.
Vicario.
He's mad enough.
Yeah. Ricky, I know Craig and Josh have spoken now about the pre-season friendlies there. Give me your opinion on the PSG game. How do Spurs go about beating PSG? I know there's a number of days left of the transfer window, so we could get in a few more players by then. And they would have only just started pre-season because they're now off for 4 weeks, having gone all the way to the final in the Club World Cup. But regarding pre-season, what are your expectations, and more importantly, what are your expectations now for next season? What does Thomas Frank need to deliver as an absolute minimum for next season?
For me, on the pre-season, it's about patterns of play. It's about patterns of play and seeing them implement the manager's plan on the field within game. Seeing them adapt from what we've heard. And even the gents on the panel, but from what we've heard everywhere, he is very adaptive, and I think his name's James Alcott. I think his name is. I can't remember. But he basically had. There's a video out there where they sit with the tactics board, and he talks about his plan A and his plan A1. Do you know what I mean? If plan A doesn't go, and then his plan B. So he's got many different variations to win a game. And that's what I want to start seeing. And when we start talking about throw-ins and stuff like that, to me, that's a really positive sign, because you're looking for all of the margins. You're looking for any margin that can give you that extra 1% that can make a difference in the big games. So that's what I'm hoping and expecting to see. during preseason. Again, like Craig, the result doesn't really matter, but it's about seeing those patterns there and seeing these guys start to gel, like Josh was saying, and just building towards that Super Cup and the beginning of the season. To beat PSG is going to be very, very tough, but I would hope after having the 4 weeks off that they're still kind of a bit groggy getting in. You saw how tired they were against Chelsea. They really just hit the wall, I think, against them. But I'm hoping that they're tired. And not only Kvaratskhelia, don't know how to say his name either, but Desiree Doué as well. We was after him as well. So there's two very dangerous players, and KK, you know that name. He was my Sonny replacement. I was really hoping that if and when Sonny left, that was going to be the guy that took his spot. But when PSG come in with their bags of money, it's very hard to say no to. And you can see what a difference he has made in that side. I agree with Craig. He's one of the most dangerous out there. But it's about us. Don't worry about... I want us to go out there and play without any fear. I want PSG to worry about us and us not worry about them in that sense. You know, I want them to almost be arrogant and think that they're going to walk it, and then we give them so many problems that they're frazzled on the field. And I think by doing that and by being brave and by not have any fear of what they can bring to us and go for what we want, I think that's the way of going about it. If you saw Chelsea went out to play their game against them. They knew what they were doing. They knew the game plan. And they wanted to implement their game on them rather than sitting back and waiting for what PSG were going to do, or hoping that PSG wasn't going to be, you know, as on fire as they normally are, and then just hoping for a result. They didn't hope. They went out there and got it. And I think that's what we need to do too. And then for the season, we've got to be back in the top 6 at the very minimum, I think, you know, we've all discussed how, you know, the Gooners, Man City, Liverpool have thoroughly upgraded on their squads that were already pretty good already. The Gooners, they'll probably have a striker by that time as well. You know, don't discount Villa, Newcastle as well, because they're on their missions too. So it's going to be very competitive. The Premier League is the hardest league in the world, and that's why. But I think with this data-driven approach that we've taken to transfers over the last 2-3 years, I think with a data-driven manager who accepts that and knows how to work that, I think with a manager that knows, from what we've heard, has 9 different formations that he played at Brentford, and is adaptable to the situation and sometimes the opponent. I think we have to make a mark. We have to scare oppositions. I think people, instead of going, you know, we're going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we'll beat them, or, you know, 3-point lane, or all of the doubt. I want him to fear us. I want him to be like, oh my gosh, no. I mean, Tottenham are coming with Kudus and Gibbs-White, and Solanke's on form. He scored a hat-trick in the last game. And, you know, Vicario had a clean sheet. Nobody could get past him. And I want him to worry about us. I want him to worry about Porro. I want him to worry about your doggy. I want him to worry about Mickey and Romero and Spence, who comes on. I want him to worry about who we bring into the midfield. I want him to worry about us. And if they're worried about us, that's a great sign. And that means that we are progressing in the league. It is obviously going to be better in the league than last year, but we need to see our side be brave, dangerous, front-footed, but no mugs. You know what I mean? That we're not mugs, that we can't get mugged off from, you know, aggression or a counterplay or speed or a set play or any of the rubbish that has affected us before. It's about ironing out those things. If this guy's such a tactician, if he's so data driven, then he would have already studied and seen the gaps and the problems that were at Tottenham last year. And I want to see him attempt to fix it. I want to see him go out there to go, let me show you what I'm about. I want to see him grab his opportunity, because let's not forget that Frank has only ever had one game a week. I want to see how he adapts to that. I want to see how he adapts to the pressure. I want to see how he takes on the European champions and takes us forward. You know, let's not discount that. Let's not discount the trophy that we just won. The second biggest European trophy there is to win. We was the ones that won it. And so I need to see us, like the chairman said as well, competing on all fronts and going out there to kind of achieve, not just compete, but to achieve. And if he can do that, I know it's a lot to ask, but that's why you came to Tottenham, Mr. Frank. So if we can see that, I think we're on a really good footing. And I think that we are, we would be going in the right direction. Let's not forget that Daniel said he wants to win the league. It was about the things that we haven't won. So let's see what you got. And you know what? Don't be afraid by the pressure. Embrace it, because this is what you was after. This is what you wanted, Thomas. You know, you wanted Champions League. You wanted a big club. You wanted to go and challenge for titles and challenge in the league and make everybody know who you are. And I think he has great foundations for all of that, but we need to see it. And that I think the most important thing I need to see is how well those players are enjoying the challenge with Thomas Frank, how much they are willing to adapt, how much they're willing to shift and change for the team and not just for themselves, and how they embrace Frank. Because for all of Angie's criticism, those boys loved him. They loved him. They would do anything for him. If any of you guys have seen the documentary that Tottenham put out, first out on Spurs Play and then out on YouTube, if any of you around the world have not seen that, go and watch that. I do feel that they cut out a bit of Ange, but the bits that you see will make the hairs on your arm and the back of your neck stand up. And I guarantee you, I don't care how big, burly, butch or buff you are, you're going to be shedding tears by the end of that, because I was, when they went to Hoffenheim and Sonny was like, this is one of the most important matches. And I'm like, I was there with Chris. I was there in the crowd, and I was there, and I remember it. And
you weren't in your room though.
Well, let's keep it moving. That'll be another podcast, bro. But yeah, you got to watch that as a manager in a club and kind of go, all right, and cool. We need to take this forward. We need to move forward from this. We need to achieve more. We need to put more in that trophy cabinet. We need to embrace the glory. We can't shy away from it. We can't be scared of it. We've got to go out and get it. And all of those boys that were playing last year, they've got a lot to say to those 22 teams that beat them. We've got revenge to go out for. So go out and get it. Go out and show them, once you're all fit, what type of team you are. Go out and show them what quality you are. Go out and show them what a difference a trophy can make, not only to the club, but to the mentality, to the heart, and to the football on the pitch. Go out there and show us that, and I'll be a happy guy.
Ricky, I hope that I meet you in that plant pot again on Friday, the 15th of August, in that trophy parade of the Super Cup. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And I tell you what a perfect start in Thomas Frank's Tottenham career, to lift a trophy. A Super Cup would be unbelievable. Jim writes here, and thank you so much for all of the comments tonight on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Your support is always fantastic, and you always put in so many comments. So thank you so much to everyone. Jimbo writes here, gents, don't worry. Trophies are like London buses. One comes along, and another three follow. The quad is on next season. Ricky, Jimbo's even more confident and passionate than you. Enjoy the Thomas ride. And last one, Josh, going to come to you. Seb A writes here, Do you guys think that the Morgan Gibbs-White transfer will end up like Nico Williams to Barcelona? Barca went all in for him and he signed a 10-year contract. 10-year contract, Josh.
That sounds like something out of the Chelsea playbook, to be honest. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but I really hope we get that deal over the line. The fact that he's a club captain, he's a leader. You know, he was part of that. He was part of that under-21s Euro winning team, wasn't he? The original under-21s Euro winning team, I'm pretty sure. Broken into the England senior team. He'll be thinking about the World Cup. He's in that squad now. Let's hope it happens. 10-year contract. Who knows? I certainly hope we don't agree some sort of NDA release clause for him for £60 million and 7p. As long as we get it over the line, I couldn't care less if it's a 4-year, 5-year deal, 6-year. Doesn't really matter.
Craig, there's another super chat here from Kate, and Kate's on the channel on Saturday. And I urge you guys to go over and subscribe to Kate and Jimbo. Their channel name is The Perfect Match. But Kate writes here, we need to give Thomas Frank some time, as it's not going to happen overnight. But I believe we have a good coach and the club is moving in the right direction. And I feel like everyone is on board with that. The fact that everyone can see that the club is moving in the right direction. The club is spending money on decent signings, on experienced players that we've all been crying out for the last couple of years. But Kate is absolutely right that Thomas Frank, and I know a lot of people hate that expression about, giving someone patience, but I feel like the rebuild started 2 years ago under Ange Postecoglou. And this is just like I know Ange is now gone, and, we can argue or debate whether it was the right decision or not. A lot of people wanted to see season 3. A lot of people wanted Ange to go. A lot of people see this as the right decision with the managerial change. But I feel like this is kind of like a minor reset where Thomas Frank is continuing that work from Ange, exactly what Ricky said. And no one's ever going to forget that Ange delivered a trophy for us, particularly the Europa League. But, he's got to be given time, hasn't he?
No, he has. Absolutely. He needs to be given time. And I agree. That he's a sort of minor reset because he's going to want to bring in players for his system. There's going to be some at the club that he's not going to see that are going to fit into his system, and we'll see over the next few weeks who those players are. We have only really signed Kudus. I know you can say tell, but he was here last season. We know what he's all about. Danzo was an obligation anyway. Kota Takai is obviously one for the future, you would think. So it's really only Kudus so far. Morgan Gibbs-White, if we get him over the line, definitely major improvement. But we need more players. We do need more players, or else we're going to get found out in the Champions League. I don't want to bring the mood down because everybody's quite confident, but I think everybody realises that, that the Champions League competition is far and away tougher than the Europa League. And I'm teaching everyone to suck eggs there, but it's a fact. There's going to be no easier games next season in the Champions League. So we need to back the manager or he's going to be set up to fail. And it seems, to be fair to the club, it seems to be the case that they are going for it and they are going to go for it. And these details of investment that we think have happened, whether that's Enoch or somebody else, that will come out as well, I'm sure. So I'm really interested to see what we're doing over the next few weeks in the transfer window. Obviously, we got till the 1st of September anyway, but really critical time for Spurs now to get the key targets in.
I know Craig gives his opinions on this channel now on a daily basis, but Ricky, I'm just going to ask you and Josh, is there anything else that we haven't spoken about today that you want to say about any player, about Thomas Frank, about the transfer window, anything else you want to add?
I can't think right now. Joshy?
What? What?
I know. I do. Of course I do. But I just can't think right now.
We've done trinkets. We've done everything. Yeah.
I think we've done it. But, no, I mean, look, man, when it comes down to Ange as well, I'll say this about Ange, I don't know whether anybody heard that story about him being in a hotel and they were on holiday. I think it was during this preseason, after the season had finished, and there was a guy that was in there, and he's basically saw him with his family, but left him alone, and then sent a bottle of wine to his hotel room, and it had a phenomenal message on it. And you know, just speaking about the emotions and thinking about it, talking about the joy that it brought to him as a long time Tottenham fan, and you know what it means to him. And I have to kind of reiterate all of that. Like, I don't think I've ever felt that joy, and I don't think I've ever felt, you know, I mean, I went to a Carling Cup. I went to the Carling Cup final, and that was amazing. It was amazing, but the feeling wasn't the same. Even when me and my dad got back on the train on the way back, there was no singing on the train, and my dad was like, "I love it, Kate and Jimbo," and my dad was like, "Come on, boys, sing up Tottenham." Do you know? And he was trying to get it going on the train. On the way back, this is after we've won, but it wasn't. It was very kind of muted. It wasn't. It was like, "Oh yeah, okay," but it's the Carling Cup. You know, at that point, there has not been a feeling that I've felt like standing in that plant pot, like being in the stadium on the night. Do you know what I mean? On the night of the final, I was in the stadium. I watched it there.
You should have been out in Bilbao.
I would have loved to.
It was pissing down with rain. We went back to the fan zone where there was no music. There was nothing going on. It was open till 4 a.m. and it felt like we beat Norwich at home. Chris is faffing around trying to find a charger so he can go onto Australian telly at 2 a.m. And Melvin is stood outside of the kebab shop telling Gareth, it's time to go home now. If you think,
Josh, the only thing I'd say,
I've been waiting to say this all night. If you think that was bad on the train, you should have seen post Bilbao. No one knew what to do with themselves. We're all singing and dancing. I think we've all worn ourselves out in the ground. And I don't think we had anything else left in the tank.
No. But let me say, and I think you all agree, and I think a lot of people who are viewing and listening, you always know you've had a good night when you end up in a kebab shop at the end of it.
Absolutely. But I tell you what, the atmosphere. I went to the stadium to watch it, the final, and the atmosphere outside the stadium before I walked in was immense. There were people singing in that street. They were dancing. People were on shoulders. There were flares going. And exactly the same, if not more so, when we won it. When I did finally get out onto the street, you know, there was, like I say, flares, songs, and everything, and there was such a good feeling amongst all of us. I'll give you two things. On the train from Tottenham to Liverpool Street, this train now was buzzing. And there were songs going, there was jokes going. There was a guy across from me who was so drunk he couldn't hold his can. Right, he couldn't hold the can, and it was going. It was gonna go. Right, and it ended up falling on the floor and stuff like that.
That was you. We had a
giggle about that. But I bought a program, and I bought there was a T-shirt for my sister, the Europa League final T-shirt, the blue and white one. I bought that for my sister. And I finally sat down, right? So I was standing up the majority of the time, and I finally sat down, and I've put the bag beside me with the stuff in it. And I'm sitting there, and I'm chatting to this other family that were lovely. two young boys, dad. I think there was his missus there as well. I'm not sure. But I remember having a great conversation with them, drunken one. I don't know what I said, but I just remember feeling great. And anyway, get to Liverpool Street, I get off, and I'm walking, I'm marching. I'm like, right, got to get my next train, and I walk pretty quick, you know. So I'm like, da. And this guy is running, and he's like, oh, hey, and he's running, and I'm like, I've already got my earphones in and stuff, and then I finally noticed him. You know, he's tapped my shoulder. I'm like, what's going on, mate? And he's like, you left your bag. This guy ran nearly the whole platform to come give me the bag with a program in it and a T-shirt that he could have easily taken and given it to whoever the case may be, right? But that
there's some good people
there. That feeling was there, and he knew how much that meant to me because I bought it. So we went, no, I'm gonna go find him and I'm gonna go give it to him. Same thing. I get onto the Elizabeth line. This is just right after I get onto the Elizabeth line in Liverpool Street, and I get onto the platform, and you know my jacket's open. I'm wearing my green hoodie. Jacket's open, and I'm walking with the biggest smile on my face, and I see this old boy, older gentleman, and he looks worn out, but he's sitting there on the bench, and as I'm walking past him, he just looks up at me, right, and I look at him with a big ass smile, and all I do is this. So I was like, I just nod, and he looks at me with the same smile, with the same heart. And he gives me the nod back. And that was these things. It's these things that are beautiful, man. These moments. And when us Tottenham fans come together for special moments, boy, are we special. Boy, are we classy. Boy, do we have a good time. Running on that pitch as well. Running on that pitch. Being able to run on the pitch. And no, I didn't run on the pitch. Seeing everybody else run on the pitch was really a great thing to see. Tottenham. I wouldn't run on the pitch. I wouldn't do that. I like to follow the rules always. So yeah, that was special moment.
They've got you on camera,
really,
mate. They saw you.
I know. They've got me in there. But those moments are really special, and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Ange taking that sacrifice. You know, as in sacrificing the league for the cup, and those boys that pulled together, and that speech that we now see in the documentary, that speech that he gave before they went out there. My goodness, thank you, Mr. Ange Postecoglou. Good luck to wherever you go. I'm putting money on him being Nottingham Forest's new manager when they get rid of Nuno. I think he's going to be a shoo-in. But I wish him and his family, you know, the best that they could possibly have. And thank you for those memories. Thank you for those moments. Thank you for those times that you will never, ever know about. And, you know, to all of us Tottenham fans, special, special, special.
Yeah.
Rick, you know what you were saying there. A very quick story, I promise, about something that football fans, you know, if you're the same fan as somebody else coming towards you in a shirt or something really funny happened. I was in Ibiza Airport 2 weeks ago, and I could see this guy walking towards me. He'd obviously had a row with his missus because she was, you know, like she was storming in front of him, sort of thing. And I didn't know this fella from Adam, but I could see he was kind of making eye contact with me, but I was just walking along trying to find my gate and everything. And as he got up close to me, I had my Spurs shirt on, my training top. He just looked at me and he went, "Come on, you Spurs," like that. And you just have a moment with people, don't you? And I know this happens with fans all over for all different clubs. But he just went, "Come on, you Spurs," and he smiled, and I smiled at him and just nodded. And the look his missus gave him, it was so funny. It was so funny. It's like you're talking to this random guy, and whatever he'd done, you know. But that moment, he was like, "Come on, you Spurs," and it's brilliant. That's football for you. It's a lovely thing.
That wonderful moment that Ricky shared with that guy there, Josh. It sounds like Melvin and Gareth in the kebab shop. Not.
No. Don't take this personally, but I wish my missus was here instead of you. I think is what he got on the car journey home. But no, to what Ricky and Craig has said. I mean, flying out of Bilbao Airport. I mean, it was amazing being it. And the flight got delayed, but no one cared because it was all Spurs fans. They're all having a good time. But actually, I thought the most special thing was two bits. One was the morning after. Everyone's going out, limbering out, hoarse as anything, trying to get something to eat. And Spurs fans just all been exactly as Ricky said, you know, the nod of appreciation. And then actually coming back, because I wore a Spurs shirt back, because you've got to. I was walking up the high street when I just got back from the station. And again, you knew where the Spurs fans were. Suddenly, I've never seen so many Spurs fans out and about. Everyone giving, the old look, smile. That was brilliant. Yeah. It's moments like that make it all worth it, and that's what football's all about. That's why I think we're all critical at times, all harsh, and why the standards are so high, because all you want is those moments over and over and over again.
Yeah, well said, because I definitely want those moments again, and we don't enjoy these moments enough. And I'd love to have that moment again next season under Thomas Frank. So whatever it is, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, the Super Cup, the Champions League. By the way, do you think if anyone booked the final to the Champions League final, do you think that would be a bad choice right now?
That means Chris has already booked his flight.
Yeah, maybe wait to the end of the transfer window, bruv. Give yourself a.
I'm just asking.
Listen. Whatever happens, I have booked the plant pot for the whole of next season. So whenever you're ready, Chris, it's ours. All right. It's now a VIP area.
I bought the season ticket, mate. They do a 3-year deal. We're there.
I don't think they'd let us back in there somehow.
See, Reese has said, I already have. He's already done it.
Reese. I love that.
There you go. Love that. What a way to end the podcast. And I'll tell you what, it was going to be a nice short one, but it's turned into a long one because we've been talking about winning the Europa League, but we can talk about this for a long time, particularly all season long. Craig, thank you so much for all of the work that you have done on this channel in the past couple of months, because you seem to be doing more and more. No joking. I think you've actually done more on this channel in the last week than I have. So thank you so much.
That's all right. I'm getting up early to do them. I'm doing them in my lunch hour, late at night, missing dinner, getting told off for not doing the washing up. But it is what it is. People think like I'll do this all day. I haven't. I've got a full-time job and I have to do it when I get time. So same as Chris. So yeah, it's mainly good fun. It's just it's difficult sometimes when Tottenham, let's face it, Tottenham don't make anybody's life easy a lot of the time, do they? But
can I just say this? I don't know whether you're going to tell me off for telling people this, but before your wife put the dinner on the table the other day, she said, "Have you done Chris's videos?"
She did. She went, "Have you done your video?" No, she actually said, "Have you done your videos today?" I was like, "I'm not 12. What, are you Chris's agent or something?"
That did make me laugh.
And I've done them. I had done them,
Have you
love
done
it.
your homework yet, Craig?
Yeah, I've done my homework. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got in from work, did my videos, and then she's saying, "Have you done your videos?" He's like, "You're not getting your dinner until you've done your videos."
I'll send you to bed without any dinner.
Exactly. You know it.
Craig, there's always room for improvement, though.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm cold. I had a problem with wind today, apparently.
You never know what's coming next. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. Great having you back. What are you up to at the moment? What have you been up to in the last couple of months since we've seen Spurs win the Europa League?
I've been working very hard, and I'm looking forward to hopefully, I get a break at the start of mid-August, so just in time for the start of the Premier League season. Looking forward to having some time off. I need to get a bit better at doing these videos that you've asked me to do, Chris. I was meant to do one a day, and that's fallen by the wayside, but I will do a couple soon. Hopefully we'll have a Morgan Gibbs-White update soon, fingers crossed. And probably just spam in the chat. I think I might send another essay into the chat of regulars. I think I sent the world's longest message into the chat about what we need to do in the transfer window and about the club train rule. Yeah, definitely been doing other
Yeah,
things.
but Josh, you're not learning, are you? As soon as you do something like that, you know Chris is going to write a message 5 minutes later. Josh, can you do a video on that? What you've just written?
Yeah.
Well, it's because
And,
we don't mind watching a video. We do mind reading like a 3,000 word essay.
Well, yeah, too right. I just started journaling. I just kept going and going, and
Yeah.
I stopped a couple of times thinking, well, I'm too far in to just delete this now. I've wasted my time. I've just got to continue. I've got to relent. Other than that, I think I'd probably still be singing Johnson again in the shower until the start of the season.
Yeah, I do hope that a lot of Spurs fans around the world are still singing the Johnson Again song. Yeah, that needs to live on for a long time. Yeah, Ricky, great to have you back, and it wouldn't be a 2.5 hour podcast without you. So, what have you been up to anyway? Have you been up to anything exciting over these last couple of months?
Yeah, I'm still reading Josh's text. It's taking me a minute.
It's on chapter 12 at the moment.
Oh, mate. No, I've been keeping super busy. There's been plenty of meetings. There's been plenty of auditions. There's been plenty of bits and pieces happening. Yeah, just hustling my little self out there and trying to make things happen. I am hosting a charity show on Saturday. It's all been sold out. Otherwise, I would have plugged it. But it's a great charity called the Paul Strang Charitable Fund. They do shows and events, and all the proceeds go to children's charities, those that are in need. So I've got a show Saturday. That'll be 7 till 12, and their headline act is actually friend of the show, friend of all of ours, Anthony Costa, who's from Blue. And Blue are headlining it that night. So I'm gonna see if I can get them to do a Johnson Ale, or 17th, and I don't know how. We run it. If I can't help it, everywhere. You know how tough it is to hear these songs in real life,
I know.
and not sing the Tottenham lyrics. Oh my gosh. So yes, been keeping super busy. So I'll be hosting that Saturday night, and should be really a good show. So really looking forward to that. And then just keeping it moving, bro. When something drops, I will let you all know. But otherwise, I'm keeping myself busy in between, trying to make things happen.
Well, Ricky, thank you so much for coming on this evening. We look forward to seeing you back on the Spurs Chat podcast very soon. Thank you so much to everyone who has tuned in this evening, and thank you so much to everyone who listens to this on an audio platform. Number 1 in Hong Kong and number 1 in Denmark this week. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support. And as Craig rightly mentioned a couple of days ago, over 40 million views on this channel in 2025. That is more views than we had in the entirety of 2024. So unbelievable. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support and continuous viewing on this channel. So it's really appreciated. We will see you again on Thursday night, because I'll be doing an interview with Dean Snoggins from the Sun newspaper, talking about the tactics of Thomas Frank and the season ahead. And we'll be back with a fan show on Friday, and we will also be back on Saturday after the Reading v Spurs game, our first pre-season friendly under Thomas Frank. Josh, thank you so much. Craig, thank you. Ricky, thank you. Look forward to seeing all three of you back on the Spurs Chat podcast soon. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for listening. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on.